One of my favorite guys, Brock Huard, when he didn't work at this company, I said, we got to go get that guy. He's good. Played in the NFL behind Peyton Manning. Was a great player for the Washington Huskies. So it is, I said the other day when I came on the air, I said, listen, I grew up a Husky fan. I'm going to try to be objective. This is very hard because I love Michigan football. I love Texas football, but it's different for Washington. Penix is interesting. So I just did a segment saying I don't want to hear about it. In the NFL, I don't care if it's Bo Nix, Penix, injuries, Caleb. We have 5 quarterbacks that can play. Top 12 teams. Draft them. Figure it out. You can't win in this league without a quarterback. Would you worry about Penix's injuries? I look at it and I think to myself, the last 2 years, Brock, Huard, Joe Burrow, season ends with injuries. I don't think Cincinnati regrets drafting him at all. I would draft Penix top 3. I'd have no problem with it. What say you?
Yeah, he's going to end up. I listened to Clap with you yesterday. Obviously, I love Joel. He sees all these guys as I do. He's out on that college football road. He's going to end up in the top 10, if not the top 5. This is a great draft of offensive tackles. This is a great draft of wide receivers. But to your point, it doesn't matter what kind of beef you have protecting or what you have catching it. If that guy right there can't sling it down the field the way Penix can, and Colin, trust me on this, and I'm sure we'll talk again before the draft, but I can guarantee you this, over the evaluation of the next 3 months, you are going to hear what you heard after that game Monday night. This guy throws a ball differently than everybody else. I mean, there are not 5 guys, I tweeted this, there are not 5 guys in the NFL that spin a football at the spin rate that he does. And then the velocity that creates. Remember one more thing, and any old quarterback will tell you this that got to play in college and the pros. There is nothing like throwing an NFL ball. Yeah. As nice a ball as Adidas makes and Nike makes and everybody else, nobody makes as good a ball as Wilson does for the NFL. They're the best. This guy does not throw a duck. Everything is just a rocket, line drive, perfect spiral. You don't see him ever throw anything with a wobble. He's doing that with a college ball. Wait till he gets to the NFL, to the Senior Bowl, through this evaluation. You're going to hear from GMs. You're going to hear from scouts. You're going to hear it on your show. This guy spins a football just about unlike anyone other than maybe Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert, Matthew Stafford. And I don't got many more fingers to get beyond 5 because that's how talented he is at throwing that pigskin.
So Washington's always recruited well, but not necessarily Texas, Bama well. So I had told my Husky friends before the season, I'm going to go up and watch a game. I think they're a 9-win team. I didn't see them as a national championship team because I thought they had one great edge rusher, but didn't have a ton of NFL bodies and depth. So I'm surprised they're here. Maybe I'm too cynical. You're former Gatorade Player of the Year in Washington State. You're a Husky forever. Are you surprised they're in the Natty?
I am surprised. I thought they'd be an 11-win team. I thought last year they were an 11-win team, bringing back everybody they brought back. I thought they could get to 11, but I thought this gauntlet of SC and Utah and Oregon State and in Oregon and ultimately a Pac-12 title game and everything that they've had to do to put together the greatest season in the history of that university. I sat Monday night watching the game with Shane Pawakoa. You remember Shane safety. Back in 91, the starting safety. His shoulder pads were the size of a aircraft carrier. Yep. And I looked at him, I said, Shane, you all went 11-0. You went 11-0. Remarkable. Cal was a tough game. Couple at Nebraska, an amazing game. And then you got a month off and you got to 12-0 and you got to beat Michigan for that 91 national title. These boys, can you imagine if in 91 you had to go 12-0 and then you had to play Cal again and then you had to play Michigan and then you had to play somebody else at Miami again? I mean, they've never done it. They've never been to this kind of mountaintop. So it is remarkable. The QB and the receivers are phenomenal. The offensive line's the best in college football. And I'm glad you mentioned that edge rusher, Colin, because I don't think they win. I don't think they win on Monday night. They certainly would not win and have a chance to win this upcoming Monday night without Braylon Trice.
Yeah.
8 pressures, 2 sacks, forced fumble recovery, a motor that doesn't stop. And much like the Kansas City Chiefs on defense have gotten away with a couple good D linemen over the last few years, it's kind of the same way with the Washington defense, man. He's the only one that's going to make a lot of money and play on Sundays on that defensive side of the ball. But he plays a position where you feel his impact.
So I did say, I didn't think Texas, I thought Washington matched up with Texas really well. The Texas weakness is the Husky strength. I think Michigan matches up with Washington pretty well, which is they can do time of possession football. They don't have to throw it a ton. They can kind of grind you down. And frankly, they have a much better secondary than Texas. You're not going to get any cheap stuff over the top. So I think, to me, it's a very close, lower scoring game. And by the way, they have 7 blowouts. National champions historically blow out about 7 teams. Washington's in a wild, crazy ending every weekend. Has Washington met their match with Michigan? Let's talk Wolverines. What do you see?
Yeah, I got to see them early in the year. Much like when I saw Texas twice this season, I'm like, yeah, these dudes they're just built different. I mean, they got so much depth, so much what you talked about earlier, like an SEC team off the bus with all of these NFL bodies and D linemen and front 7 guys. This is the best Michigan front that I have ever seen in covering my 17 years of college football. They've got 4 defensive ends that are all dudes. They got 4 defensive tackles that are dudes. They've got a 250-pound linebacker that's a dude. So they've got and brought in an NFL kind of mind and mindset to that scheme that I heard Klatt talking about yesterday, and he nailed it. I mean, it is an NFL mindset, and they play like the Ravens do defensively, and they got horses up front to get after you. Michigan has not seen a Washington. Penn State can't throw it. Ohio State this year with Kyle and just their O-line, they couldn't throw it. They have not seen a Washington team, and Washington has not seen a Michigan team. They've seen good fronts, and Oregon's a good front, and Texas is a good front. They've not seen this front. And then conversely, Colin, they have not seen the force of these guys offensively. Think about Michigan. To me, they're the Ravens. And it shouldn't be a surprise. They've got bloodlines, right? The Harbaughs run both of them. Watching Jack Harbaugh and his beautiful wife on the field after the game, man, the apple did not fall far from any tree, and you know who they are. And when I see Michigan, I see Baltimore. Unapologetic bullies. Want to just define the game at the line of scrimmage. And much like John's built the best team at doing that in the NFL, it feels like right now, Jim has certainly done the same in Ann Arbor.
I got to ask you, you're uniquely qualified to talk about Russell Wilson. So you followed him for years in Seattle. You were doing your morning show. Every morning you talked about, the Seahawks and Russell. And now he's in Denver where you reside with your beautiful family. And it's not gone well. And I said, and I have a little bit of insight because I know Sean, because I spent so much time with him here. I said their personalities are different. Sean is outspoken. He is authentic. He's raw, and he'll just tell you how he feels. I would say Russell's almost relentlessly optimistic. And he's going to compartmentalize it. Sean's not going to. So their personalities are different. That's not the end of the world. But I also think Russell's not quite Taysom Hill the athlete or Breeze the thrower. And I kind of feel like at the very beginning, Sean just said, this doesn't work for me. Like he didn't give Russell, I'm not saying he didn't give him a chance, but I'm not shocked by this. Are you?
Not at all. Not at all. And you knew that this would be a difficult marriage for everything that you just said. In the first 4 or 5 games of the year, they tried to play it like Sean wants to, right? A lot of check with me's, a lot of language, a lot of verbiage, a lot of things to handle. And they were 1-5 in an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, forget this because I'm a pretty darn good coach. And if I need to go back to the Pete Carroll way and throw it 20 times to 25 and rely on our defense and run the ball and just run it on unapologetically, we'll do that. And then they won, 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 and got themselves back in the hunt. And then the defense slowed down and the takeaways slowed down. And then all of a sudden it was like, ooh, this is just not good enough.
Yeah.
And, contractually with the situation there that's been well documented, they've got to make this decision and they got to make it this March. They don't have another season to wait and make the decision. Sean went to the owners and said, yep, this is just not going to work. We can't just expend this amount of money and we're going to have to eat a whole bunch. And at this stage, at 35 into 36, he's not as dynamic. He's not the wizard that I got to watch for so many years in his prime, Colin. That was so much fun. Just not that guy anymore. And you kind of felt a guy in neutral, the way that Russell lives, a guy that lives in peaks and valleys and very emotional as Sean is. This was going to be very hard to see long-term how that marriage would work.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.